So, if you don't know who Alec Gunter is, let me introduce this video with an excerpt from a previous video I made on the Gunt, showing him accusing another leftist content creator called Card Posting of leading a trans grooming cult because King Kong Gunty got burned so badly. First of all, you'll have to know who Card Posting is, and how he absolutely scarred the Gunt.
Hi! I'm looking for
Card Posting?
and a clean pair of shorts.
What do you know about
Card Posting. Gunt didn't like Card Posting's video on dog whistles, and rightfully so, it was gay.
Fren, spelt F-R-E-N, is the example.
Really? I just don't see that.
But the Gunt was way too gunty about it.
Or like put something in the background, you know what I mean? Like right now, it looks like he's about to, pull out some power tools and experiment on my body,
Which led Card Posting to unleash an autistic Hadouken.
Between the hipster beard and the flannel shirt and the slack jaw.
And you shouldn't have called me a slackjaw, dumbass.
Which scarred Gunt so deeply he made up false allegations against Card Posting.
It dug itself into my head, and I could not get rid of it. I have a screenshot to Tina where I say I can't get this guy out of my head. I think that John David Card is a groomer. I think that he is attempting to start his own cult. I think that he wants to build up an audience of trans people that he can then manipulate, take advantage of, and perhaps even in a sexual way. And so that's why I feel this is not personal.
Terrific. Alec Gunter. This is not personal. I think you're grooming trans kids because you want to be sexual with them. Unlike you, I'm not making this accusation out of blind anger.
So I'm just gonna play it and see what we think.
How old
Okay.
is this guy? He looks underage. He looks like he's like 14. Okay, you take it up the ass like when nobody's looking, and you deny it at every point when nobody even brought it up. You're like, what do you mean in the ass? And they're like, I asked you what you wanted for dinner. Okay, well, just so it's clear, I did not get in the ass. Like that's the look that you're giving off. Dog, you're 14. Shut up. Like he looks like he's 14. Some 16-year-olds look like adults. The problem with pedophilia.
Okay, let's just pause. Let's pause there, okay? This guy's called Alec Gunter, okay? But the thing that I listened to and I thought with this is like, just the weird, targeted sexual jokes are kind of odd to me. I find it very... How did I frame it? I said like, leftoids projecting their sexual ideas onto people, And then there's this weird dynamic as well where it's like, you look 14 and then you talk about how they take it in the ass.
The problem with pedophilia is not finding somebody who is underage attractive.
That is a problem with pedophilia, but okay.
Okay? If you find somebody who happens to be underage, who's like 16 or 17, attractive, that's not a big deal. The big deal is when you pursue somebody once you know they're 16 or 17 and cannot consent to you.
All right, sure, I guess. This is a little bit of a... Okay, fine, whatever.
That's the big deal, okay? It is not a fucking big deal if I go up to somebody, some chick that I think is attractive, okay? And say, hey, you look great. Why don't I take you to dinner sometime, okay? And then she turns around and says, I'm 17. I'm here with my mom or whatever, and she's in the other store.
How old is this guy? Is he like 30?
We're gonna watch some debates Alec Gunter has had on transing the kids. We'll see how you defend transing the kids, and whether or not you minimize what happens after trans surgeries. If they're not in studies, apparently you don't care about what happens. But before we do that, let's get a look at your research skills, Gunt. There was a new X account that popped up called libsofbluesky. Bluesky is where all the leftists ran to since Trump won the election, and they say really gross, creepy things on there, really degenerate things. Before we see how Gunt debates on behalf of trans and the kids, let's see what his research skills are like over something so casual as a random social media account where all the leftists are going to.
So I just want to go over a few of these. Here's one. 2 straight years of shrieking, get off Twitter if you hate it so much, only to do this. Entire identities rooted in nothing but bothering people. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 accounts called Libs of Bluesky. Here we go. We've got Libs of Bluesky. 1,300. That's better. With, of course, an AI-generated fairy thing, I guess. OMG, why does he look as clueless as Biden, lol? This is just a video of Hunter Biden.
Well, you soft skull, you were so close. You had your cursor right on it. You probably wanted to pick the profile that has 211,000 followers.
I just, it's boring. What? It's only got 20 likes, too. They're just boring. Does he have anything viral?
First of all, I don't know why you're gendering this person as a man, and second of all, How does 12 million views sound? Does that seem viral? Amazing what happens when you find the correct account to try and criticize and make fun of, you moron. The post is from the Bluesky safety team talking about how in the past 24 hours they've received more than 42,000 reports. They're triaging this large queue so the most harmful content, such as csam, which is child sex abuse material, is removed quickly. It looks like they've had an influx of sexual content featuring children since a gaggle of leftists joined their website. Interesting.
But like, it's just boring. There's nothing like, there's no juice here. They're lacking the sauce. I was expecting to see some like deranged liberal spews gender nonsense and tries to get me to use 50 pronouns, and it's just boring.
What if they had profiles like, this is my secret zoo profile so I can see more furry and zoo friends. I'm a furry and non-exclusive zoosexual into both male and female dogs, horses, and humans. DM's always open. And then this one's really gonna trigger the right, you stupid gunt. Just your everyday conversation. A Bluesky user says, I so want to eat my niece's ass. To which the response is, lol, best first post on a page I've seen tonight. Lol, well thank you. I'm on here for another 20 minutes or so if you want to discuss it in more detail over DM, if not, no problem. I appreciated the laugh it gave me. I know how it goes with hot family. It's amazing what you can find when you can find the right social media account you're actually criticizing. So this is the level of research that he does, just trying to make fun of something casual.
They do need to grift harder. No, I could literally do their job better than them. You have to search certain things. Like, you can literally find, I'm sure, like 1-2 like posts on Bluesky that are like cringe and liberal and whatever.
You mean like someone having a chronological big boy age of 19, but their trans age is 11 to 14. And someone says to them, if you're 11 to 14, I don't think this account is for you. This blog is not safe for children minors. And they go, I'm not. And they're like, well, what about your bio? Well, those are just my trans ages, not my chronological age.
Yeah, Bluesky's seeming like a little bit more welcoming to me than Twitter has been in recent times.
Well, that's certainly one way of putting it.
I guess to put a cap on this, they can't just stay in their own box. Like, this is a constant problem with conservatives, is they have to go out of their way, find people to bother, and bother them. And if they can't do that, like, why? Like, they have Twitter. You have the most popular social media website in the entire planet at your disposal to post whatever the fuck. You can post the N-word and not get in trouble now.
I love that it completely melts a leftist brain to think that somebody would go outside of their echo chamber and try to engage with other people. It's hurting his brain. He's like, they have to go outside of their box. Why are they in a box? They don't view themselves as being in a box. You can call X like a conservative platform all you want, but it just becomes a conservative platform because you people run away when anyone disagrees with you.
Like, they've made this a haven for conservatives, and yet conservatives have to go out of their way now to find people to bother. It just speaks to their mentality and the shit that they do for attention. It's a cheap attention grab because these people's mothers did not give them enough attention growing up, and so they seek it from strangers that will yell at them the same way that their mother did when they bothered her, okay? That's all this is. Pathetic, it's disgusting, and I hate these people.
Sounded like he had a flashback to his own mother just then. That wasn't a projection at all. The left isn't widely known for having mommy issues and for not being able to leave people alone. That's definitely a right-wing thing. So let's see how the Gunt's sharp eye for research translates over to a debate about transing the kids. This debate is from December 5th, 2024 with your well-researched, gender-critical person that doesn't think you should trans the kids.
We had a discussion surrounding the Trans Day of Remembrance, where people remember those who, trans-identified people who are allegedly murdered by transphobes, who are allegedly commit suicide due to transphobia.
They are.
Right.
That's not alleged, so that's just happening. That is a real thing that's just happening, yeah.
Yeah, so that's Alec's contention. And
that is true. That is the fact of the matter. That's the fact of the case.
Yeah, I think we got your opinion on it.
That's the fact, but go on.
Yeah, Thanks.
Can you believe the same people telling you that every black person killed by a cop is a racist killing and any white person that kills a black person is a racist killing would tell you that any time a trans person is murdered it's because of a transphobe? Could you possibly believe that? They don't pump themselves full of opposite sex hormones and block their own puberties, and therefore act more erratically at all in any capacity. They're just patiently sitting there and all of a sudden they get killed by a transphobe. That's how this is being positioned.
So because of that, I made a post yesterday that he was not a fan of. And that post pointed out the fact that actually the people responsible for the mass death of these trans-identified people are, and children especially, are the people pushing that same ideology of transgenderism. And so, and such as yourself, Alec. And then they turn around and they stand on the bodies of the children that they kill, and they point it around at us and they say, well, you don't want to give these kids hormones and cut their bodies up, so actually it's your fault.
They're not getting body parts cut off. That's a lie.
Oh, they're not getting body parts cut off. Okay. Let's say that's true. Let's say they are. They are getting body parts cut off as early as 14. Let's say that's true. How do you think Alec would feel if they did? Is this a case of it's not happening, but if it did happen, it would be fine?
If a young trans boy wants to have his breasts removed at 16 or 17, I personally think that's fine, okay?
You insipid mongoloid. Exactly. It's not happening, but if it is, it's fine. So what's the point of saying it's not happening? God bless all of you people that try to debate this specific person on this issue. Other people, sure, I understand it, but bless your heart for trying to actually debate this topic with this land-walking crustacean.
And I just wanted to frame for my audience how I expect this to go. Alec tends to latch on to one or two stats that are helpful for him and then ignore all the rest of them. And then as it progresses and he's not making any leeway, he tends to get angrier and insulting. So I hope that doesn't happen today, but that's the pattern I've seen. So
I tend to get angry at
anyway,
dipshits.
Right.
Well, that's quite a lofty prediction. What are the Vegas odds that Alec Gunter is going to get so mad and inarticulate about how indefensible his position is that he's going to start spurging and insulting his interlocutor? Well, let me bring you to 15 minutes later in the conversation.
Out of the context of which we're speaking of, which is social transitioning and why it's harmful, then it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant to this conversation.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Great. So you're saying that, yes, a boy can wear a dress to school.
No,
that's fine. No, you're not saying that. So what are you saying? Speak clearly.
I told you.
Can a boy wear a dress or not? Is there a problem with a boy wearing a dress?
No, a boy cannot wear a dress to school.
Okay, why not?
A boy in girls' clothes going to school because you're socially transitioning.
No, you're not! You're sending a boy to school in a girl's clothing! And that's not the same as social transitioning. That is one small part of it. You dipshit! Your IQ is below room temperature. You are so fucking dumb and you think that you're smart.
Imagine doing an impression of Alec Gunter. Like, something in the vein of, you don't even give a shit about women. You know why? Because you elected a fucking rapist, you dumbass. You get him sitting up there in AI glory in your profile thing. You completely just, you hate trans people. That's it. You just hate trans people. You might think that level of off-the-cuff spurging is inaccurate, hyperbolic, completely exaggerated.
You don't even give a shit about women. You know why? Because you elected a fucking rapist, you dumbass. You got him sitting up there in AI glory in your profile thing, and you're completely just, you just hate trans people. That's it. You just hate trans people.
Nope. That was a Trump derangement syndrome meltdown in the moment. You got a picture of Trump right there, and
you don't even give a shit about women. You know why? Because you elected a fucking rapist, you dumbass. You got him sitting up there in AI glory in your profile thing, and you're completely just, you just hate trans people. That's it. You just hate trans people.
Alec, this is why I introduced this space by saying this is exactly what you're going to do.
You can call him out for what he's going to do a mile away and he's still going to do it. So this is completely insufferable to listen to. Let's mosey on into how this is grooming. You're gonna have to put up with a little bit of the Gunt spurging, but then we're gonna go into how this is actually grooming.
And it's because you guys are grooming children into this ideology. And
You're such a
start
piece
with
of
the
shit.
premise
You know that?
that, I mean, I'm not killing children, so I'm doing better than you. So
Yeah, you are.
start with the premise.
You're doing that. You're doing
start
it
with
worse than I am. So, good for you.
All right. So you start with the premise that these children are quote unquote trans kids.
They are.
And then you
Do you know
affirm
how this works? Let me lay out how this usually ends up working for
Well,
you.
Alec,
So the way that
let
this,
me-
let me,
Alec,
no, no, no,
finish.
let me explain this because you don't seem to
Alec, let me
understand.
finish my
No,
point.
you know, you don't understand
I
how this
haven't
works.
told you my argument yet. I would love. I
But you
promise I
don't.
will
No, no,
give
no.
you-
You say
I will
quote
give you
unquote trans kids.
as
So let me
long as you want,
explain.
Alec.
You say quote
Alec, we
unquote
had
trans
an
kids.
agreement. We had an
A
agreement.
trans kid is a trans kid.
Alec.
Okay, so I'm just
Alec.
explaining to you what. Go ahead.
We had an agreement that you'd let me talk, then I'd let you talk. So let me explain my argument. And I understand you completely disagree. And you think that we're just going to ruin all the kids. But let me finish mine, and then you can give yours. Is that fair?
Sure.
I promise I won't interrupt you. Thank you. I appreciate it. So anyway, y'all start with the premise that there are all these kids that are actually trans kids. And let's say a little boy says, hey, I'm actually a little girl. You socially affirm them. And you take that little boy and you go to his teachers and say, hey, Tommy's name is Sally now. Tommy's going to wear a girl dress coat. He's going to wear a skirt. Well, y'all would say she. She's going to wear a skirt. And we need all of Tommy's friends, or Sally's friends, as y'all would say, to now call him by he, her pronouns. And we're going to treat this little boy as a girl. And that's what you do when by your definition, these are trans kids. You see my point. You're taking normal kids that are confused. You affirm that confusion by grooming them into that mental delusion. You put them in the group of kids that kill themselves at a 20% rate. So every one of those kids above the 5% that would have not desisted naturally.
He is loading this. He is
So I'll let
absolutely
you respond,
loading
and I
this
appreciate you letting me finish my point before talking.
with emotional language. What's wrong with the kid wearing a dress?
In the context of gender-affirming social transition, let me explain to you how it's grooming. Now, it may not be grooming in the traditional conventional sense, however, you people change words all the time. So let me adjust the word grooming to specifically apply to how this is definitionally grooming. And just in case the Gunt is ever watching this, let's make it a nice simple little cartoon for him so he gets it.
Have you ever thought something was normal, only to realize it wasn't? Or that someone who should seem perfectly friendly was making you feel uncomfortable? If these are things you felt in your childhood, or you're still a minor and are currently feeling about an adult in your life, it may be your intuition's way of warning you. Otherwise, if you're simply curious and want to educate yourself about grooming, or worry that someone you know might be going through it, you're in the right place.
You know how leftists were crying about feminism and rape culture? Well, now we have grooming culture. So this used to be a private thing. This video is going to be applied privately. However, now we are openly showering trans kids with attention, both in the media and in the educational system. So kids are seeing these other kids dye their hair a different color, go by different names, and seeing all the attention they're getting. So that's encouraging them to go, yeah, maybe I am. How do I know if I'm a boy or a girl? I don't know. So that's the cultural aspect. So this is going to be applied privately, and I'm going to explain how it is culturally reinforced, this type of grooming. But there's going to be a lot of overlap with the private grooming.
Grooming is the manipulative process of normalizing sexual and inappropriate behavior between minors and adults.
So we're going to focus on the non-sexual grooming aspect. It leads to sexual stuff, but we're going to eliminate that. We're going to steel man this argument. So we're going to focus on inappropriate. Ignore the sex stuff. We're going to focus on inappropriate.
It allows the adult to subtly or overtly assert inappropriate control and power over the child, in which the ultimate goal is abuse. Here are 7 warning signs of grooming to be on the lookout for, according to experts. Excessive secrecy. Groomers rely on secrecy to maintain control over their victims and avoid scrutiny from others. They might pressure you into keeping your interactions with them private, using excuses like, our relationship is special and others wouldn't understand, or it's our little secret. Otherwise, they risk exposing their true intentions and manipulative tactics.
So the cultural grooming aspect of this secrecy is teachers feeling comfortable enough to make TikToks reminding teachers to ask for their students' pronouns for the class and for their students' pronouns for when they talk to their parents and guardians. See how we didn't say it's a secret, but you're developing a new identity for the kid at the school and hiding it from the parents by saying a different pronoun with the parents. That's secrecy, and it's culturally reinforced.
Unexplained gifts. While receiving gifts or favors from someone can feel nice, be cautious if their gestures come with hidden expectations attached. Groomers may use gifts and favors as a way to create a sense of indebtedness and make it harder for you to say no when they ask for favors. This might also be a tactic from them to gain your trust and get you to lower your guard with them by making you like them more.
The juxtaposition of these cute, scary cartoons, these deformed drawings, while talking about these trans extremists is absolutely hilarious to me. But secret gifts. Well, what if schools were getting funding for LGBTQ youth? One of the things they fund is a gender closet, where your kid is given clothes they can try on. Hey, little Timmy, you want to put on a dress? He's like, and he sees how everyone's getting attention if they put on a dress. I didn't tell him to put on a dress, I just put it in front of him and showed everyone getting showered with attention. Put a cookie in front of a kid and go, it's up to you if you eat it. I didn't give him the cookie. I just put it in front of him. I'm just putting all these clothes in front of him, and then when he puts the clothes on, I'm like, do you feel different? Or do you feel the same? Well, I feel different because you're asking me this weird, creepy question.
If you had $10,000 to make your school a safer place for LGBTQ+ youth and staff, how would you use it? For 2 years now, It Gets Better has been funding 50 grants in 50 states to support, empower, and uplift LGBTQ+ students across the nation. Schools have used these grants for so many things, whether it's installing a community garden, a gender-affirming closet within the school, creating a mural that highlights queer artists, increasing LGBTQ+ literature in libraries. So many possibilities. Applications just opened up to apply for these $10,000 grants, so if you have an idea of how you'd use this money, make sure that you apply.
Special treatment or attention. Ever had a teacher give you special treatment or felt that they were overly interested in you? Be careful not to let it get to your head. Groomers know just how to stroke your ego, making you feel like the most special person in the room. But here's the catch. This special treatment isn't about making you feel good. It's about gaining your trust and dependence so they can control and exploit you.
Yup, the attention goes away when the kid stops being trans. If you don't believe me, well, watch a whole plethora of detransitioners talk about how they were completely rejected from their communities, and even how the healthcare system won't fund their detransition like they funded their transition. I don't know how anyone can deny that the kids are treated more special if they're trans. I don't even know how that's a contentious opinion.
Spending time alone. Beware of adults who insist on spending excessive one-on-one time with you. Predators often seek opportunities to isolate their targets away from the watchful eyes of others. This could mean insisting on spending time with you away from friends, family, or trusted individuals.
Well, if the teacher is the only one that understands their gender identity and their own family doesn't and they have to hide it from their family, I guess the teacher's not going to have to ask the kid for time alone. I guess the kid, since the teacher is the only one that understands their gender identity, is the one to talk to, then the kid is going to go to that teacher for more time with them because they're the only ones that understand them. Do you see how it works? I mean, with their funding, they might create after-school activities that they can do with these kids to spend more time with them. You know, LGBTQ stuff, whatever that means.
Allowing things your parents forbid. Say your parents forbid you from going out past midnight or watching graphic movies, but you had an adult friend who'd let you get away with it. They'd probably seem really cool to you, right? But it's actually a major red flag when someone encourages you to engage in activities or behaviors that your parents have expressly forbidden. They do this not only to gain your trust, but also to undermine your parents' authority and coax you into doing more and more dangerous things like smoking, drinking, or having sex.
Or convincing your kids that they can be trans and change their gender and what is gender and what's your gender and I don't know what gender is, but here's what gender is and has nothing to do with sex, but change your sex characteristics for gender. You know, something like that.
excessive physical touching. Pay attention to how someone respects your personal boundaries and comfort level with physical contact. Are they constantly trying to get in your personal space or touch you without permission? Maybe they pass it off as a friendly hug, an accidental touch, or something like a shoulder massage. No matter how harmless it might seem at first, groomers will always try to escalate these types of behaviors to sexualize your relationship, and maybe even use your natural curiosity against you.
And maybe even use your natural curiosity against you. Like saying to your kid, how do you know you're a boy or a girl? Do you feel like a boy or a girl? Isn't that a really confusing question? And aren't kids naturally curious? And how do they know that they're a boy or a girl? Seems like a pretty one-to-one comparison right now.
Minimizing others' concerns.
Like calling them transphobes?
If anyone else has ever expressed concern about your relationship with an older friend or relative, a groomer will always try to downplay or dismiss their concerns. They don't know what they're talking about, or everyone else is just so judgmental and malicious.
Or they're transphobes.
They'll probably try to convince you that those other people are just overreacting or misunderstanding things between you, or even gaslight you into questioning your own instincts.
So, Alec, let's try to tie this together in a nice, neat little bow with an anecdote about how all of these warning signs can come together for a really dangerous situation for a child.
Hi, my name is Erin Lee. I'm a mama bear from Northern Colorado. So when my daughter had just turned 12 years old, her trusted art and homeroom teacher asked her to stay after school one day for art club. But when she got there, it was actually GSA, or Gender and Sexuality Awareness Club. And her trusted art teacher had invited in an outside presenter who did unthinkable things with the kids. She talked about polyamory, she talked about suicide. She told the kids if they're not fully comfortable in their biological sex, that means they're transgender. And as my daughter left the classroom that day, her art teacher pulled her aside and said, remember, you don't have to tell your parents. We're so lucky that my daughter came home and told us what happened. We had to love her through the confusion and the subsequent depression that resulted of this transgender label.
That's grooming. Grooming is a complex and insidious process, but awareness is your first line of defense. And by educating yourself on the common tactics and warning signs, you'll be better able to protect yourself and your loved ones. If something feels off or uncomfortable, don't ignore it. Establish clear boundaries in your relationships, even with adults, and don't hesitate to speak out if you witness grooming behavior or suspect someone is being targeted. Your voice can make a difference in preventing harm.
So everyone Alec debates is just trying to call out these warning signs and explain them to him. Now imagine you're trying to describe this process to this person.
You are subjecting young boys with gynecomastia to go through the mental torment of having tits. That's what you want.
That's not true. I would
yes,
never
it
ban
is.
those surgeries.
Yes, it is. You would. Oh, yeah. I know you wouldn't ban those surgeries because those are the straight cis surgeries and those are fine, right? Even though you are chopping up kids, just like you said you would do with trans kids, right?
That's not chopping up kids. That's removing a
It's not.
deformity.
Oh, see,
Alex,
it's not chopping up kids when we do it for the straight
now?
people. It's not chopping up kids when we do it for the cis straight people. Right. Got it.
Alec,
got it.
Can I ask you a question now?
Sure. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it has nothing to do with homosexuality. You said straight. I don't know why you're saying that.
So some of you may be aware of the LGB without the TQ movement that's happening, where it's people that are gay that want nothing to do with this queer trans stuff. This is why right here. He somehow brings up, oh, you don't care when it happens to straight kid. Where did I thought gender and sex and sexuality were completely different. Where did straight come from? What do you mean straight kids? Are you saying that all trans kids are gay? This is the issue. And it's great to listen to Alec Gunter talk about these things because he doesn't have the filter that a lot of these leftists have. Usually a leftist will go, and the way that they talk about it sounds like really, they're constantly having a filter around the truth of what they're saying. Alec Gunter just comes out and said, oh, so you don't like the so it's fine when they do it to the straight kids, but not with the gay kids. He didn't say not with the gay kids, but why are you bringing it up straight? This is why gay people want nothing to do with this trans and queer shit. Thank you, Alec.
I'm asking you why you don't agree with the study that I just sent. That is my question. That is my question. No, you're not answering the question. Answer the question. Why? Okay.
I just explained to you.
I will give you 20 seconds, and if I don't see where you're going with it, then I will interrupt again. Go on. Your timer starts now.
Alec, that's fine if you don't want to hear the answer to the question.
Your 5 seconds passed. Go on.
All right. The answer to your question is, the reason I ask you for you to cite completed suicides instead of suicidal ideation is because, and this is the same thing when you got into
Do you agree with the study or do you not agree with the study?
You are so scared of this answer.
No, you're not answering my question.
You interrupted me after the word because.
I gave you 20 seconds. Do you agree with the study or not? Yes or no?
Alec, you are terrified of this answer. If you're not terrified of this
you
answer,
said you don't agree with it. So why don't you agree with it?
I would love to tell you. Would you like to listen to me, or are you too scared to hear it?
I'll give you one more chance. Go on.
Great, thanks. So this is the same thing that came up in your debate with exulansic.
And that's when I found out the Gunt debated exulansic, who is the Oracle, the Larry legend in the sport, of chronicling not only these stories, but the surgery complications of trans people. Things that there's not studies on. She legitimately has her own collection of studies, which is more informative than just reading it off of a piece of paper, seeing these actual people.
What up, y'all? It's Jay here. I had phalloplasty in August, so about 4 months ago. As you can see, everything is healing up pretty nicely. It looks good. Yeah, I'm just getting on here to talk about a complication that I've had since getting surgery, and that'd be my fingers. Basically, it kind of started out as my cuticles like being a little bit swollen and tender. And then it's progressively gotten worse since then. Basically, when I brought it up to my surgeon's attention, they said that they didn't really know what was going on and just kind of brushed it off. It's only gotten worse since then. So I ended up going to see a hand surgeon specialist, their office, and they basically said that it was a pyrogenic granuloma. I think that's the name of it. And then they did a silver nitrate treatment to it, which basically is like this long stick. It looks like a match, but you like get it wet, and they put it on the stuff that was coming out of my freaking cuticle. They put it on there, and then it like turned everything black and like basically burned off it looks kind of like this. They burned it off. And so now it's fallen off and it still looks like this. And now my fingernails, if you can see, they're like peeling at the base, these two. And then these ones look like this. Is anybody else like, am I okay? Like, what's going on? Anybody else experience this? It's been 4 months. 4 months.
Oh, well, would you look at that, you fat, smelly Gunt? Apparently, these trans people are going through complications, and their doctors have no idea what to tell them. And they keep getting bounced around the medical system to the point where they're asking random people online about if this is okay and if they're going to be okay. This is 4 months after. How long after the surgery are they surveyed in these studies? Oh, this is just one example. This is just an anecdote. Well, isn't it alarming? Doesn't that raise some eyebrows? But yeah, seeing what they're saying, how they're saying it, what their complications are, and how they still give a thumbs up and say they're okay. Sometimes they die. And they just die. They never die of anything related to being trans. Just these normal, healthy, trans people in their 20s croaking out of nowhere sometimes. And it's culturally martyrized.
I want this generation of trans men to be open and honest about their feelings.
Trans adult performer Apollo Moon has tragically passed away aged 26. Relatives of the trans mask star, known to his friends and family as Forrest Harade, announced that he had been in intensive care since Wednesday, the 27th of November. The cause of death has not been confirmed.
Oh, okay. Well, can we confirm that maybe that wasn't meant to be a woman's body and that had something to do with it? Or is it just a mysterious death of a trans person? Do they count this in like the transphobic murders? That a trans person died? It's just any trans person that dies. For any reason.
Moon was a prominent figure in the trans and sex worker communities, especially notable for being a person of color in a white-dominated industry.
3 things that I have done this week to upset someone on the internet by being trans. 1, I took my medicine prescribed to me by my doctor. 2, I wore shorts. 3, I posted a picture of myself smiling.
2 days before he was hospitalized, Moon wrote on X, "Being trans brought me so much joy, and there was nothing in this world that made me happier than sharing that experience with my community." That same night, he wrote, "I hope all trans people are extra gentle with themselves tonight, and I wish I could hug every trans person in the world right now and tell them I love them."
It's okay to talk about your feelings. You should talk about your feelings. You should cry. You should be open to connection.
Friends have paid tribute to Moon,
Maybe trying to look like Buff Bagwell is a death sentence for the female body.
remembering him as a trailblazer and a kind and beautiful force for the world.
So these people will literally trans themselves to death and still give a thumbs up at the end, and minimalize all of the complications along the way. That's the grounds for calling it a cult. They will smile as they're dying. But let's check out this debate with Alec Gunter and exulansic. From December of 2022, I can't believe I haven't seen this. Get a load of the complete knowledge gap. Listen to how much more informed exulansic is, and how Alec Gunter is just playing his little autistic game, barely listening in this quote-unquote debate about puberty blockers.
For a long enough time and in a substantial enough way, they may say, hey, let's just, this person is going through puberty now. They're starting to see the effects of the body changing that they don't like. Maybe it's time to start puberty blockers. And
in a communist society, they would bash your fucking brains in for saying something like that. Are you out of your mind? If the kids feel uncomfortable during puberty, put them on puberty blockers? Are you trying to get hurt? Why would you say that?
And that will make the anxiety and the depression go away. Now, I don't know the person you're referring to, but I assume
Jennings
that's...
is I Am Jazz, the star of I Am Jazz. And so he's been on TV, and he was put on puberty blockers at 11. It was had an interview with Barbara Walters around that time when he had the implant put in. Immediately had new onset of severe psychiatric issues, which their position now is that the psychiatric issues are unrelated to the gender dysphoria. And then subsequently was given estrogen and progesterone. The progesterone also, they decided caused severe issues, so they took him off the progesterone and kept him on the estrogen. And then he was given a vaginoplasty at 17, which failed. And then he was given 2 additional vaginoplasties.
Okay, so does this person still identify as a woman?
Screw all the failed vaginoplasties, okay? Does the mangled mess call itself a woman? That's all Alec Gunter heard. He didn't hear about all the complications with surgeries and the trials and tribulations this person went through since they were 11, having their opposite gender affirmed. No. We're gonna ignore all of the physical things that happened to the kid and ask ourselves, yeah, but is it called a woman?
So when you say that don't have subjective measures, what do you mean?
So the ones that I've looked at, they tend to be based on self-reports.
Right.
And that's inherently unreliable.
Can you tell me how else you would determine whether somebody is satisfied with a treatment?
I don't think satisfaction with the treatment is the best measure of whether the treatment has been effective when we're talking about, because you said that this is it's a physical illness.
It's part physical, part mental. It's a misalignment of, it's dysphoria. It's basically a misalignment of what your body is and what you want your body to be.
You said that it was a product of anxiety and depression, and that those were medical conditions, and as opposed to a psychological situation.
I never said that gender dysphoria results from anxiety and depression. And if I did say that, I take it back. I apologize. I misspoke.
You can't do that in a debate. You can't say something full-throated, and then when you're called out about it and held to account, you go, I never said that. And if I did, I didn't mean it. And I take it back. How do you... Bless your hearts for debating Alec Gunter on trans kids. How do you say you never said it, and then even if you did say it, you didn't say it? How could you ever lose a debate with that tactic?
I don't give a shit about this physical correlate you keep going back to. I don't know what that means, and I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He came here to play games and chew bubblegum, and he's all out of bubblegum.
If they don't have cancer, the risks of chemotherapy actually do outweigh the benefits of chemotherapy.
You're right.
If they do have cancer, the risks of chemotherapy might still outweigh the benefits depending on the chemotherapy, depending on the cancer. You actually need to have a physical correlate. Yes, and
it all needs to be assessed
not based on their subjective sense of well-being
by a team of healthcare professionals. which is what's done with puberty blockers as well.
If it was, we do randomized placebo-controlled clinical trials for chemotherapy. Why hasn't that been done with puberty blockers and gender dysphoria?
It's still relatively new, and I do look forward to the point
If it's
when
so
we do have
new,
that.
it should have been done first. Why did we skip that step?
I don't have an answer for you for that. I don't. And
they
frankly,
didn't have an answer in Florida either, and that's why they stopped doing it.
Huh?
They didn't have an answer for that question in Florida either, in the Florida medical boards.
Florida is owned by Ron DeSantis. I don't care what Florida does. We can saw it off for all I care.
Exulansic has been showering Alec Gunter with terminology, specific anecdotes, exactly how it all correlates to each other. And Alec Gunter is like, Ron DeSantis owns Florida. Ron DeSantis owns Florida, so you can saw it off the country. That was his response to Exulansic citing how Florida, because they actually looked at the science and data and examples, why they don't support it. That was his answer. He is my favorite cow. But I know what you're thinking. How's he gonna stack up in a debate against a trans woman that says she's a man? That says she's a biological man and says she's not a woman, she's a trans woman. Listen to Alec Gunter try to wrap his mind around a person that transitioned from man to woman and acknowledges that they're a biological male, and so they're not a woman, they're a trans woman. I'm not trying to sound condescending, unless I'm talking to Alec Gunter.
Just more practical to view trans women as equal to cis women. They are just women.
Yeah.
And they are.
Would you
And
say
that's not even like me being like, oh, well, we have to like cede to their mindset. Like, we're not doing fantasy here. They are women.
Because it's practical.
In what way?
They say
because they told themselves. I asked you that earlier. I do apologize. I
okay.
disagree with that, to be honest.
Then what makes
I'm
you
a trans woman myself. I think what's happened is...
Well, what makes you a woman then?
Trans woman.
Nothing.
Then
I don't think
why do you
womanhood
call
is
yourself
something...
one? Are you lying to
I don't.
yourself?
Trans woman.
I call myself a trans woman because I've gone through that whole process, and I used to call myself one.
But you just said nothing makes you a woman, so according to you, you're not a woman.
Trans woman.
That's correct. I'm male. I'm a trans woman at best. If someone doesn't want to call me a trans woman, then that's up to them ultimately.
Fair enough.
But I'm confused. Are you a woman or not?
A trans woman.
Well, I'm male.
Okay, that's not my question. Are you a woman or not?
Trans woman.
I'm not a woman, no.
Okay, so why do you call yourself a trans woman then?
Because I've gone through that whole process. I'm post-op.
Why does he insist on talking about trans issues when he doesn't understand the concept of a trans woman? How is he the progressive advocate for trans people when he's like, so, you a woman or not? Doesn't he sound like a conservative? I'm a trans woman. The hell is that? Are you a woman or aren't you a woman? Oh, I'm a trans woman. The hell's that mean? Holy horseshoe theory, what is going on right now?
Do you think that, like, the gender identity theory has been, like, proven?
The gender identity theory?
Yeah, the theory that trans is, your gender identity is this, and your body is something other than that.
Well, I'm a gender abolitionist, and my...
I'm sorry. There's no way I heard that correctly. Did this bovine lummox just say he's a gender abolitionist?
Well, I'm a gender abolitionist, and my view of gender is that it's a useless construct of society, but as long as it's around, we should, like, point it in a direction that gives us the most utility possible. And to me, that just means...
Shut up. Shut your stupid fuckhole. How can you be a gender abolitionist while advocating for the perpetuation of the concept of gender? Aren't the gender abolitionists the gender critical people? There's no such thing as gender, there's just personality. How is this different than Alec Guntington owning a slave plantation, and as he's raping his slave's wife in front of him, he says, I don't agree with this construct, but while it's here, we should point it in the direction that gives us the most utility possible. How can you be a gender abolitionist, but also support a movement that inculcates kindergartners into believing that they know what their true gender is? So when he says trans women are women, he's admitting it's just to satisfy their delusion. It's practical.
Just more practical to view trans women as equal to cis women. They are just women.
Yeah.
And they are.
Would you
And
say
that's not even like me being like, oh, well, we have to like cede to their mindset. Like, we're not doing fantasy here. They are women.
What are you talking about, you gross pile of pig shit? It's literally to satisfy their delusion. You don't believe they are women because you do not believe the concept of gender because you're a gender abolitionist. Contradictions really do not exist to these people.
What's the utility in that?
Well, I mean, if we don't do that, then how are you going to enforce things like bathroom bans?
The only reason why bathroom bans are in the cultural zeitgeist is because of the enforcement of the concept of gender. Ugh, you're giving away the game and you don't even realize it. The left is the ones perpetuating this idea of gender just so they can drive this wedge in society to gain control over people and cause chaos and to make things not normal. Ugh.
Well, I mean, if gender doesn't exist, then I don't know why you'd be worried about bathroom bans.
Because you're restricting people from being able to use, I don't think gender is important, but to some people it is important.
Yeah, but to some people, or most people, it's not important. For example, you, Gunt. You also don't think it's important. It's only important if you make it important. So instead of medicalizing children, why not say to them, oh, gender is a social construct. It really doesn't have any utility. It used to have utility in like the 50s and whatnot when we had social norms. But now social norms don't exist like they used to. And you can kind of just be whoever you want. You can wear whatever clothes you want, and that isn't, it's fine. It doesn't change you as a person. You can just express yourself and have a personality. If you're a gender abolitionist, why wouldn't you say that, you fat, ugly fuck?
Because we live in a very gender-pilled society, if you will, to speak crudely, I guess.
We live in a gender-pilled society? Who do you think is perpetuating that? And who do you think is trying to stop that? The left is perpetuating these gender stereotypes, and the right is saying, there's no such thing as gender, you have a personality. What a useless idiot.
So, gender identity is important to a lot of people, both trans and cis. And, we assume that women use the women's bathroom, women play in women's sports, women go to places that are labeled woman.
What do you mean we assume that, you bloviating cum stain? Yeah? Why would you not assume that? I honestly don't know what he even believes in, and I don't think he does either.
And so if you're saying that people who call themselves women, who dress like women, who act like women, who look like women are not allowed to go into places that are for women, you're discriminating against them for some reason. You're saying you're not a real woman. And that causes problems. It causes mental problems.
Yeah, I thought we all agreed that mentally ill people have mental problems, right?
It causes societal problems. It causes rifts in communities. It's not good. So it's just better to assume that trans women are fully fledged, equal women.
Isn't it better to fight back against the destructive concept of gender? To save people a lot of money and harm to their bodies? Isn't that better? Since gender is just a construct and you don't think it's important? Yeah, but if they think it's important, they can hack themselves up. Is that a real opinion?
Because they are.
Can males be women, though?
Yes.
How so?
By saying they are women.
So your gender is just what you say it is?
How else do you determine gender?
What do you mean, determine gender? It's a made-up social construct. So how can it be so near and dear to a person's identity and their true self when it's just made up by society? And then they get surgeries and put on lifelong medications to make them the opposite sex, by the way, not the opposite gender. What do you mean determine their gender? It's made up. You admitted it's a social construct. I'm gonna bash my face against a wall right now. So, I'm actually at a loss for words. I've heard of audience capture, but this might be the first case of audience Stockholm Syndrome I've ever seen. Alec Gunter is proof that you can say the most contradictory shit in the world, and as long as you agree with the endpoint of the leftist narrative, it doesn't matter. These people are consequentialists. All they care about is the end goal, which is brainwashing other people's kids into their quote-unquote community. In traditional grooming, these things are private. In cultural grooming, these things are culturally rationalized. If you join a cult, you can wash away your past and take on a new identity, oftentimes with a new name. In this cultural cult, they don't have to erase the past of a child. Just promise a new future. This is absolutely disgusting. I'm gonna go cry in the shower. Have a good one.